Hello everyone, Mason here. How are you doing? It's book review time. Today I'm talking about Sleep Tight by Rachel Abbot, book 3 in the DCI Tom Douglas series, first published on the 17th of February 2014. Olivia Brooks is a woman who's had a hard life, a tragic life, an unbelievable life. When Olivia phones the police to report her husband and 3 children missing, they recognise her name as someone that they've dealt with before, on multiple occasions. Distraught and panicking, Olivia is seemingly convinced that something terrible has happened. But when Robert and the kids turn up completely fine, the police are left to wonder whether Olivia was just wasting their time, whether she's lying, crazy, or both. 2 years later, the police are called to the exact same house, but this time it's Robert that calls them, because Olivia has gone missing with the children, along with every trace that any of them were ever there at all. Honestly guys, that's all I feel I can tell you about the plot of Sleep Tight. Over the last week or so, since I finished this book, I've been battling with myself. I've desperately wanted to talk about it because I loved it, to tell you the truth. But one of the reasons that I enjoyed it so much is that I went in completely blind, which is not something that I usually do at all. For those of you who don't already know, I've read 2 books in this series already. First, I read Close Your Eyes, which is book 10. I didn't realise that it was part of a series until it was much too late. I was already invested and there was no way that I was putting it down. Because that book worked so well as a standalone, I knew I wanted to try another entry in the series, but I wasn't ready to commit to reading the whole thing, so I picked up a random one, which ended up being book 8, called The Shape of Lies. I enjoyed that one so much that afterwards I was fully ready to commit. So I went back to the beginning, or at least as close to as I could get, because unfortunately the first 2 books in this series aren't available on Audible, which is a shame, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. At this point I already have enough faith in Rachel Abbot to just go into this completely blind. Without looking at the description or the ratings, I threw a credit at this and went on a wild ride. One that I'm struggling to think of any criticisms for, that I'm struggling to think of anything that I didn't like. It ended up being a full 5 stars and is without a doubt one of the best books that I've read this year. The more I read Rachel Abbot's work, the more I enjoy it. Her style is already becoming recognisable, familiar and comfortable. It's simple, easily digestible and so addictive. It's like extremely well made comfort food. I gobble it down as fast as possible, enjoy every single second of it, and once I'm done, even though I'm full, somehow I still want more. As I've mentioned before, these are not police procedurals. You're not going to get extremely in-depth investigations and forensic analysis. They're just not those types of books. What you will get is incredibly well-told stories that explain and explore how and why a crime is committed. In my opinion, Sleep Tight was fantastic. It kept me guessing the entire time, and I really was gripped on the edge of my seat, trying to work out what was going to happen next. I had no idea what was going on, but not in a bad way. This case is intricate, complex, and meant to be confusing. It has more twists and turns than a racetrack. For a long time, it's unclear what's happening, but when things start to come into focus, the truth is shocking, and the explanations go deeper than you initially thought. One character in particular is completely unhinged. They're insane, and the depths of their insanity just keep on unfolding, leaving you to wonder what they're capable of and where they'll stop. This makes the last third of the book intense, the textbook definition of thrilling. I was totally invested emotionally and desperately wanted things to work out for the best. The audiobook was a weird experience for me. The rest of the series is narrated by Lisa Coleman, who does a fantastic job, but this one is narrated by Andrew Wincott and Melody Grove. Wincott does most of the narrating, and he made Tom feel like a completely different character. It was a strange experience. It was almost like going back to the beginning of a TV show and watching the pilot where they've not made the casting decisions properly yet. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the TV show Being Human, but the first episode of that is a pilot, and they used different actors to the ones that they eventually cast for the main series, and it was the same sort of experience. Maybe if I'd listened to this one first, like I was supposed to, I would prefer Wincott's narration, but it was so strange hearing Tom having this gravelly, drawling voice because it was so different to the way Lisa Coleman does it, and I think I preferred her version. I really can't express how much I enjoyed this book. There's only one criticism that I can think of, and it's such a small one. I don't feel that Abbott made the story feel like it was taking place in Manchester as effectively as she did in the books that I've read previously. But that's understandable because I didn't read them in the right order. The ones I've read are much later in the series, and of course she's going to have improved in the space of 7 years. Other than that, I enjoyed absolutely everything. Tom and his colleague Becky are enjoyable protagonists. They may not be as deep and fleshed out as they possibly could be, but they're hard-working, dedicated and good at their jobs. They're also not the main focus of the story. After reading 3 books, I've started to really like them. So once I've read the rest of the series, and believe me, I'm gonna read the rest of the series, who knows how much I'll end up liking them. The plot is great. The twists and turns are exciting, intense, satisfying and clever, and I feel that Abbott executed this almost perfectly. To tell you the truth, I enjoyed this one so much that it's hard not to just binge read the rest of the series, and I think the only reason I'm not is that I have this channel. I think it's pretty clear at this point, but I cannot recommend this book enough. If you're a fan of crime, thrillers and mysteries, in my opinion, this is a must read. My question for today is this: would you make a good detective? How often do you see a twist coming when you're reading a book? I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, the like and subscribe buttons are just sitting there, waiting to be pressed. Now press them, or else. Or else what? You don't want to find out, mate. If you want to get in touch, say hi and have a chat, you know where the comment section is, and the link to my Twitter is in the description. Thanks ever so much for spending time with me today, guys. Until next time, take care. For now, I'm off, and you should have a good one. I can't lie, I am so glad that recording that review is over. I actually had to take a huge break in the middle because I was just getting to the point where I couldn't think straight because it's so bloody hot. I just can't take it at the minute. I love recording, but at the same time, it's so hot in the room where I do it. It's just killing my motivation. It was so hard to come in here today. I was trying to find some sort of excuse not to do it, like, oh, it'll be okay. I'll just give that last video one more day to gather some views. I don't know how people in other countries do it. I honestly don't. For those of you who live in the USA, just don't know how you do it. You guys are absolute heroes. Roll on, winter. That's what I say.